welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to the second video of the day. If you're here for both videos, you're here for this one, you're just here for the other one, even though I don't know how you would see this if you're only watching the other one. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you clicking on my YouTube channel, and I hope you're having a very good Sunday, or if you're watching beyond, maybe you're watching next Sunday. Whatever day you're watching, I hope you're having a great day. Okay, we've got to get into it. So James Charles is in very hot water right now, and he is getting called out for many different things overall in his career, to say the least, but currently with Ariana Grande, and it is really messy. So if you're not aware of the context, Ariana Grande has just released a makeup beauty line, and it is called R.E.M. Beauty. Now, this has been one of the most anticipated launches of the past year, and it is finally out now. And you're probably like, okay, why does that matter? So basically, James Charles and Ariana Grande have had a very one-sided beef from James Charles to Ariana Grande for the longest time, and it was basically just James Charles being bitter that Ariana Grande didn't want to be his bestie, and it was so messy and so just, it didn't need to happen, right? So whenever Ariana is releasing a beauty line and James Charles has to review it, because that's literally what he does other than messaging boys on Snapchat, you know, it gets really messy for him. So there's a lot of different things that he's addressed. A couple months ago, even a couple weeks ago I would say, he put on his Instagram story, he was doing a Q&A, and he referenced a point that started this all. He was doing a video with Shane Dawson and Ryland Adams, which again, hasn't aged the greatest, nothing really has here, and he basically was asked who the rudest celebrity he's ever met is, and he quickly and sharply answered Ariana Grande, and basically just went after her. We're gonna look at the clip, then we're gonna look at what he said, and we're gonna look at what he said now, and then his video, and it's a full mess, right? Messy. But it never not is with James. So basically, he addressed on his Instagram story this clip recently and said that, you know, he's so ready to do the R.E.M., you know, review without going in with a biased point of view, and that was the biggest regret of his career, being rude to Ariana Grande, which is so ironic because that is the biggest hold on. Sound the alarm. James Charles said the biggest regret of his career was saying that Ariana Grande was the rudest celebrity to him. James Charles said the biggest regret of his career, now we've covered a lot, right? The biggest regret was that moment, which I think is a very interesting pick. I would have at least a 16-year-old, 16 other reasons. So without getting into that, because we're focusing on a different drama with James right now, on that Instagram story, he said that when he did the makeup review, he was going to address the fact that he said this and why he said this, and it would make a lot more sense. Spoiler alert, he posted the review of R.E.M. and there was no drama, nothing said about Ariana, nothing said about him being rude to Ariana, lying or whatever. He literally just didn't include it whatsoever and immediately got called out for it by Ariana Grande fans, and then he came for them on Twitter, and it's just been this back and forth. So, for a little bit of context before what he said, this is on Instagram, this is what he said on YouTube whenever Shane was asking him who the rudest celebrity he ever met is. Now keep in mind, we're gonna read in a second, he said that he literally lied here.
Who's been the rudest celebrity you've ever met?
Ariana Grande.
Can you talk about this?
Yeah, I guess.
Have you ever talked about this?
No.
This is everything. Hello, how have you been hyped? This is Gigi Gorgeous on YouTube Red. It's everything.
I haven't really talked about it because I really like Ariana. I guess I just had a really crappy experience with her, but I went to her show here in LA, and that's when I met Kim Kardashian for the first time, who was so nice. And I posted a bunch of videos on my story from the night. The next morning I had woken up and she had DM'd me. I was like, oh my god, thank you for coming, and she was so sweet, and I was like, oh, I love you the most ever in the world. To this day, I don't really have hard feelings about it. I think she's so talented, but she had followed me and DM'd me, and I was like, oh my god, I love you the most ever, like, thank you. And she was like, oh my god, wish I knew you were coming, like, I would have loved to have you backstage. And I was like, oh. This is right after, like, all my scandals started happening, so I was getting, like,
it's so interesting, James Charles sitting there with Shane Dawson talking about scandal. Let's get past the irony of that, but it's so interesting how he's so nonchalantly being, you know, it happened after all my scandals. Like, baby, at the time of filming this video, you have a lot more incoming, let me tell you, and even more disastrous ones.
Really angry tweets from her fans that were really mad that she had followed me, and literally 4 hours later, I started getting tweets like, wow, Ariana unfollowed James, like, the rat gets what he deserves, like, wow.
Queen acted fast.
Like, what the heck? So I checked, and she did actually unfollow me, like, literally 3 hours after she
Maybe you just tweeted her.
Probably. But I messaged her back, and I was like, hey, like, did I do something wrong? And she literally was like, hey, babe, like, I saw a lot of angry tweets from my fans, and I would never want to disappoint them, so I unfollowed. And I sent back, like, a very, like, strong word message to her, and I was like, you have 100 million fans, it's really disappointing.
Here's the thing, Ariana Grande gets a strong worded message from James Charles, and she's like, boy, I don't give a fuck. Like, what does he expect? Like, who does he think he is?
Stoop to the level of listening to people bullying me just to like appease them, but okay.
For fans, not just people.
She's one of the most talented vocalists like of our generation, but it just really sucked that like I was literally getting bullied by her fans, and instead of like just ignoring it and like building a friendship, she literally like listened to them.
That's the problem for James at the end of the day. So keep in mind, he literally says that he lied about all of this, right? His issue was that Ariana Grande didn't want to be his friend. He made an issue literally calling her the rudest celebrity ever. Got so many news articles to pick up that James Charles, YouTube celebrity, says that Ariana Grande was the rudest ever. And he's now, you know, backed down on all that. But he literally, in watching this clip, it's so clear that he was just bitter that Ariana Grande didn't want to be his friend. First of all, inviting someone backstage at the show doesn't mean that you're going to be their friend or even besties.
Which is just like saying like that's okay to do.
You should have done nothing, ignored it, and just kept DMing you.
Yeah, like it wouldn't have been that deep. That was a disappointing interaction.
Wow, have you never talked about that?
Wait, Shane, hold
No.
on.
That's everything. Ariana Grande unfollowed me. That's the title.
Like most celebrities that I've like met through like my job have been literally the sweetest ever. I think it's really cool because like through like having a lot of followers online.
Oi. It's so, like, I don't know if you're aware, but recently I was talking about the fact that places like LA, in certain events that I kind of went to, it was very much so talking about only like followers, and to get in you had to have a certain amount of followers, and whenever you're talking with people they would only talk about what followers you have. James Charles literally proves what I'm saying there. He's like, you know, I just have so many followers and it's annoying, or she has so many followers too and it's like annoying she would listen to them, and it's like, you know, I have a good amount of followers, I have a good amount of like, it's like, blah, 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 blah. No one cares. No one cares. Oh my god, no one in the real world cares how many subscribers you have, how many followers you have. No one cares about that. Like, at the end of the day, what value does that hold? Jesus Christ. So that, at the end of the day, is showing what James was upset about. That Ariana Grande didn't want to be his bestie, regardless of, he had so many followers. Like, she don't give a fuck. So anyway, on his Instagram story, James was doing a Q&A, and someone said, what did Ariana Grande do for you to say that she was the rudest celebrity you ever met? And Jimothy Charlemagne says, literally nothing. So he's feeding into what he says about people just talking shit about people. He calls people out for doing this to him, where, you know, they just have followers, so they make fun of you, or they say they had a bad experience and they run with it. And, you know, because they have followers, people listen. He has done this to so many people, but it will only ever be an issue, my mucker, right? Whenever someone does it to him. But he has no problem, like, pulling them down and then using as an example that he's done it to other people. It's so, like, oh my god, does he hear himself? Literally nothing. The fact that I said that is one of the biggest regrets of my career. Again, I'm not going to focus on the biggest regrets of my career because I feel like we could have a lot more than that. And it still follows me 4 years later. I plan on talking about it in more depth whenever I film my review of R.E.M., so her makeup brand. All I can hope is that people will listen with an open mind. And then this was the photo attached with it. So he has basically said not that long ago that whenever he releases this video on R.E.M. that he's going to address, what does he say again? I plan on talking about it in more depth. All I can hope is that people will listen with an open mind. So basically, he put that out there that he was going to talk about this. And let me just tell you, he posts on Twitter, new surprise video is up now. Honest review of Ariana Grande's R.E.M. Beauty. And so, spoiler alert, I watched the video on 2x speed. I have to. By the way, hearing James Charles on 2x speed is a mindfuck. But anyway, the review was kind of bitter, very clearly. He was basically calling it out from an honest point of view, and, you know, these products aren't really worth the money, and it's just really expensive, and for a first launch, this is kind of underwhelming, and I'm not really loving the packaging and stuff like this. And it's like, all this criticism that he's giving Ariana Grande is stuff that he's been called out for in the past about, you know, lack of budget, or lack of, you know, range, or underwhelming, and it's just like he was just using that, and it's bitter, right? Okay, Ariana Grande didn't want to be his friend, James has so many followers, and she didn't want to be his friend. Like, oh my god. So then a fan responded and said, James, we all know it's just going to be bitter because you weren't on her PR list, or even her bestie, not on her telephone list. And so James responds and says the following. So basically calling out the fact that, you know, people are now calling him out for why didn't he keep his promise and address the drama in the video as literally promised. So James said, I have my notes here. I filmed an intro talking about the drama from 4 years ago. I apologize for being a dramatic teen. This is literally not that long ago. I apologize for being a dramatic teen who got upset over someone they loved unfollowing them and explained that we talked our good, moved on, but I snapped it because I knew no matter what, this would be the response. It's interesting that he had to get in there that, you know, she unfollowed me, but we've talked since then and, you know, we're besties now even though she will not follow me on social media. Like, Jesus Christ. Here's the thing, right? So his review of this brand is kind of how I told you. He basically just pushes that it's underwhelming and for the money, for the hype, it's not really his favorite thing in the entire world. Anyone, and I mean fucking anyone, could have predicted that this would have been how he responded to the release of these products, and it's very clear. I don't think anyone within our space is, you know, the smartest for, you know, coming to that conclusion. It's very clear that he's going to have that opinion based on the fact that he's still bitter that Miss Ariana, Queen Ariana, didn't want to be his friend. And it's like, alright, here's the thing. He brings up the point that Ariana wanted to bring him backstage. That's it. Like, that's it. Even him saying, you know, Kim Kardashian was so nice to me. Kim Kardashian is not like, bestie James, let's go to drinks. They're like, okay, you're someone within the same space. And they have, I'm sure they're not reaching out anymore, James, for certain reasons. But it's like, God, and for him doubling down on the fact that Ariana was so rude because she listened to her fans who were upset about her posting with James or supporting him is so weird. And he literally brings up the point that how dare she listen to her fans and go into the hate mob that was happening with him. It literally is always this narrative whenever it doesn't go his way. No, the fans were letting Ariana know things that he has said, things that he has done, and Ariana made that executive decision. You know, Ariana could have been his bestie after, could have wanted to be. But it's like, to criticize a celebrity, and I can't believe people even ran with this narrative that Ariana was rude based on what he said, because Ariana unfollowed him after being told all this information, actually shows that Ariana's a pretty decent person. Whatever your opinion is of her, we don't even talk about her on here, but like, whatever your opinion is, it really goes to show that she listens to her fans and she cares about what her fans say, and it's not a case of her feeding into the hate mob who were bullying him non-stop. No, it's a case of this is a person who probably didn't care about you in the first place, doesn't really know, was just being nice, saw that you were someone attending the show, was thankful for that. You know, you would be kept backstage with everyone else who was going, who had a following, because that's how it works at these shows. You know, they normally will probably get a picture with Ariana, they'll post about it, whatever. Ariana's probably really happy that you didn't even go backstage in the end, get that photo, because of the way that, like, could you imagine if the experience backstage wasn't perfect, what he would have ran with then? And I mean, there would have been no recording of it, and who would have known what he could have lied about Ariana about? But listen, the fact that he cut out the alleged filming clip talking about the drama and that he was so wrong, I don't believe that it was even filmed in the first place. And he can prove me wrong and upload it, and good for him. But it's like, can we really imagine James Charles sitting down, like, properly getting into it, that he was just a dramatic teen and he's really regretful for it? No, but I can imagine him typing up a couple sentences on his Instagram story saying it's the worst regret of his career, to take away from other regrets of his career. So, with that being said, my mucker, I want to know what your opinion is. We can talk about it below. I really appreciate you watching. I think this is just a case of, like, he was, like, over-expecting what she was going to be giving. And it's up to her who she fucking follows at the end of the day. And even following isn't even that big of a deal. But, oh, lordy, lordy, lord. We'll talk about it. I appreciate your time and I appreciate you watching. Thank you so, so much. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye. Mwah.